What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing out there? Well, today Pete, the volunteer up here in Marion Depot, is going to run us through these signals back here. He's going to show us the semaphores and how it all worked. So we'll give Pete the floor and he'll run us through it. I hope you guys enjoy it.
It was open. This room was a women's lounge. There were folding doors right here where the depot closed and rocking chairs and tables. And when you think back in time, the men were smoking everywhere public, like restaurants, train stations. That's why a lot of theaters have a women's lounge. But when we got the depot, it had been abandoned quite a few years and all the lounge furniture was gone. So we made it our signal and interlocking display room, and we tried to get as many different kinds of interlockings as we could. This is 1930. This is one very small section of the machine out of Korea, and that was twice as long as this room is wide. But naturally, we only needed this much to show it. And it's a GRS machine, General Railway Signals, Rochester, New York. The two competing companies for years that sold their products to the railroad, of course, Union Switch and Signal, Swissville and GRS from Rochester, and each road had their favorite. But anyway, we got it hitched up to the oldest signal in here, the semaphore. And that's the GRS semaphore, the motor on the mast. And we've got it hitched up to try and explain to the general public how signals work, which of course, as you guys know, is nothing like traffic lights. If you pretend this signal's 2 miles down the road, and that's the New York Central signal, again, GRS type G with the triangular arrangement of the lights. If we get a better signal on this signal right here will come up to clarity. And of course, while I'm right here, we have model boards from many towers. This was the largest mechanical plant in Ohio with 112 levers. Of course, it didn't compare at all to some in Chicago, but it was the biggest mechanical plant ever built in Ohio. That was all pipeline. That was a great big junction in downtown Columbus. Long gone, but at any rate, there it is. Okay, this machine is, somebody's been messing with these things back on. This is 1908, and this is from Sterling, Ohio, up near Akron. It's where the B&O main line and the Erie main line crossed each other. And this machine had 2 more sections this size, so it was 3 times as large. And we've got it hitched up to the searchlight signal with the lenses in there that move and change the color. This is the Union Switch and Signal machine. They never caught on with pistol grips like GRS did. Everything Union Switch and Signal was in flip-flops, you know, the Model 14s, but at any rate. The searchlight type signal. The Central had a lot of Mesa, Cleveland, and Buffalo, except the Central used a smaller background. Only came out about this far. Out west, the Burlington, the Santa Fe, everybody out west loved the searchlight signals. UP, there's millions of them made that look like this. Of course, today, they're all going to the one type of modern signal today, so that's why we tried to save these. This machine was very unique. Most pistol grips, when you threw a switch, you had to wait for the indication to come back and click, and then you completed the movement of the lever. With this machine, if it works right for me, you engage the switch motor. Now it's going over. When the indication comes back, the switch points are over, the lever pops in on its own. 1908. Pretty cool. There were only 3 of these machines ever made as far as we can tell. We do have all the drawings for them. Neat machine. And then we come over here to the S8. 9 we want reverse, 10 we want normal, 11 we want normal, 12 is, what is 12? Okay, well, we're going This big semaphore here, we've got hitched up to this. So, let's fix that. Now, it only went to approach. The green on here doesn't mean it's clear. It just means if it's lit up, you have an aspect to proceed. We'll put the train on there so the engineer's looking at the signal. And we'll give him the next signal down the line, which puts this one going to green now. I'm sure all you guys know you can't go from green to red on a railroad. A train's big and heavy and it's hard to stop. I always say it's like trying to stop an ocean liner in the water. If you don't slow down before you get to the dock, you'll crush the dock. So on the railroad, it's green, yellow, red. And gives the engineer plenty of time to slow down. So let's see what they got today. This is a union switch and signal semaphore, USA. The motor's in the base, and it drives a rod or a pipeline inside that moves the semaphore up. Where this one, the GRS semaphore, has the motor mounted on a mast. When they abandoned the area years ago, we cabbaged from about 4 places across Indiana from automatic launch semaphores to get enough to make one work. And we've had it all restored. And when it was in service, it was twice as tall. We only wanted to restore it once. We didn't have it outside in the weather or outside in vandalism. If you own a passenger car, you don't want to restore it once. You need a climate-controlled building. I'm not into restoring anything more than once. But anyway, I should run the train by the signal and show you how it works. Let's do that. As soon as he hits the next track circuit, past the signal, where the insulated joint is there. The insulated joint with these marks to keep one circuit from leaking into the next one. And here he goes by the signal. It goes black on the board, but it goes red in the field. And the lever's been used, so the operator is putting it back normal. It's not the operator putting it back to stop. The train put it to stop. The operator's only putting the lever back to normal because it's been used. And we get an awful lot of people from the public that know nothing about railroad signals and don't understand how they work. I've always tried to explain to them, railroad signals pick their aspect or their indication they're going to display based on all the electrical information going into them. That's why you see all the relay cases along the track. It's amazing how many cases of electrical information are going into this signal. Let's Number one is, this is the interlocking one that's here. This is another 2 miles here before you get to the next interlocking. It's reading that this track circuit's clear electrically. That's one piece of information. It's reading that the switch is in the normal straight through position instead of the diverging route. That's 2 pieces of information it's reading electrically. It's reading that the next track circuit down the track is clear. That's 3 pieces of information it's reading. It's reading that the next signal down the line is on stop, so it only went to approach. That's 4 pieces it's reading. And then we'll change 1 piece of electrical information it's getting, and we get the next signal down the line, now it's going to clear. That's why it would be totally unsafe for the operator or the dispatcher to pick the aspect. There's way too many things to remember. Let the signal pick the aspect electrically based on track occupancy, switch positions, what the next signal down the line is. That's why all the relay cases, all that information has to go in the signal. Does that all make sense? So anyway, let's go the other way here. Some fancy plants have what we call directional traffic, which this one does. Let's see, I'm going to put 14 back. You'll notice the purple arrows will go the other way in order to to get signals the other direction. Now we can go east. This is a new Paris, Ohio, on the Penske's main line to St. Louis. This is the line coming down from Bradford, which most of the freight went that way. Passengers all went this way to Dayton. We'll pretend we got the Spirit of St. Louis coming east, put him on the circuit. Now we don't have a high signal for this, we should. All we have is a Penske wharf, and of course the Penske locator position light straight across the stop. We'll get, let's see, 9's reverse, we'll give him a signal. Now all he has is approach, that's the same as a yellow, and straight up and down is the same as a clear. That's green. Now he's got the next signal heading for Dayton. What they were doing with the position light signals, they were imitating the semaphore. We put both these on yellow. Dwarf, okay. That's Dayton. Let me get it back to a yellow. The angle of the blade, the angle of the lights. If we put them both to stop, the angle of the blade, the angle of the lights. There were 4 railroads, the best I know in the United States, that did position lights. Of course, the Penske was the best known. They ended up, they had their color position. And there's a B&O dwarf. Probably the most complex of any signal system was the B&O color positions. Depending on if the white light's off to the left or the right or at the top or the bottom, that's different speeds. And the other railroad that had it exactly like that was the GM&O, because back when the GM&O was Alton, they were corporately hitched with the B&O. So the GM&O ended up with B&O color positions. Of course, the UP is eliminated about all of them now. So let's see, that's about everything on that. This is all Penske. This is from the machine is from Warsaw, Indiana, where the New York Central's line north and south across the Fort Wayne main line. But we didn't get the model board, and somebody gave us the model board for New Paris on the St. Louis line. So we decided to combine New Paris's model board with Warsaw's machine since they were both Penske. The only thing New York Central here is the board. Just came from Ridgeway, the next junction west of us on the Big 4. And that was a mechanical pipeline board. Our guys put a solenoid on it to make it operate. They couldn't figure out the mechanical connection. There's Armstrong lever. It moved all the pipelines. We have some pipelines out near the room. When the plants were all mechanical, and we moved the pipelines and threw the switches. At one time, the semaphores were pipeline moved too, when it was manual block from one tower to the next. And finally, they made the signals electric, but they still use the Armstrong levers to make an electrical connection. So they have the interlocking bars with all the protection. Over here we have Fostoria. This is Fostoria. Here we jump up to 19. Here's GRS's builder plate. In 1950, this was ultra modern, all done with relays, no computer. You could push the button where the train was coming into your plant, push the button where it was going out, and all the switches and signals in between lined up automatic. There's only been a few changes to this. This is the second set of panels that was made for Fostoria. When it was made new in 1950, the New York Central was double track. When they took the double track out on the New York Central, they made a whole new set of model boards. It was before the El Cheapo age where they put black tape over the tracks at route service. They made a whole new model board. The only 2 lines that are gone today in Fostoria are the New York Central and the nickel plate branch to Sandusky. Those 2 are gone. Everything else is still there. There's a nice new connection today for northbound on the former C&O to make a right turn and go east on the former B&O to Willard. The new connection around here is all part of the interlocking. Of course, Fostoria, even after this machine came out of use, Fostoria was open for years all on screen with a keypad and a mouse. It only closed about 3 years ago. It was one of the last towers in Ohio. But it's kind of neat to have Fostoria here. They don't really have a place to display it. Here we are with a table model interlocking from Union Switch and Signal, and there's our builder's plate. This is from Ohio City, a little tiny town on the state line as the area goes into Indiana. All three railroads are gone here today. If you go to the Diamonds, it's just prairie grass. You can't tell where anything was. The Erie Main Line was a double track, Marion to Chicago. The Nickel Plate branch crossing over, and the New York Central's Big Four line is Cincinnati Northern, North, and South. They're all gone today. We'll put a train on the track circuit. Area westbound hits the bell, and if the operator isn't asleep, you better get him lined up. There he's got the signal to go through. They made these machines, from the teens and 20s, very popular through the 40s. Union Switching Signal made these up to about 1957. I know Pitt Tower was one of the last big ones built in 53. This guy off the signal back. Here's a C&O board, typical CTC from 1955. They started making this style CTC board in the 30s, and they continued it, clear up into the early 90s. This is the former C&O right outside our windows. Back in the big days when it had 40, 45 trains a day. We're located right here. This is south towards Columbus, this is north. These are the railroads east and west out in front. Of course, this C&O CTC board doesn't even show the NS running right here beside it. The tower used to be over here. We moved it over here to save it, so we could have it on our property and save it. Didn't have to have people across the tracks, which the railroad wouldn't want us to anyway. Railroad said we could have the tower if we moved it over here. So the depot's in this corner, the tower's here, and the NS is right here. Other places, this is VR Tower at the south end of Walbridge. This is over at Lima, where the area used to cross the D&O and the Nickel Plate. Way back here in this corner, this is the newest machine we have, 19, still looks modern. They would never make anything in hardware. This might be some of the last stuff GRS made before everything went to screens with keypad or mouse. This is downtown Columbus. This is the fancy heading for St. Louis out the south side, and the other way to go to Bradford out the north side. This is the Big Four heading for Cleveland, State Limited route. This is the Pensy heading for Cleveland, the CNC, up through Mount Vernon to Orville, along to Hudson, where the CNC trains had to piggyback over the CNP to get into Cleveland. And this is the main line going east to Pittsburgh, probably the most famous joint territory in Ohio between the B&O and the Pensy, Columbus to Newark. It was 4 main tracks going out of Columbus. Automatic block, 2 signaled west and 2 signaled east. Real old timey. That's everything in here.
Thank you very much.
You're quite appreciated.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
That might be something on the end.